Check. Audio check 1, 2, 3.
Good morning, everyone. First, let me ask that you take your seats. We're about to get started. I'm very excited. We have a full agenda today, and you're going to get to hear from some of the leaders in the anti-human trafficking space, both domestically in the United States and abroad. Before we get started, a couple housekeeping notes. One, you see the wonderful pool and media behind us. You'll learn a little bit more about that in a second, but please do not stand in the way of their cameras. Second, for those needing translation services, on the back right, if the gentleman holds his hand up, or gentlelady, they have special equipment to translate English to Spanish throughout the day. Finally, as our speakers come and go, we will have food and coffee in the back and lunch around 11:30. We ask that you grab your lunch, come back to your seat. We are not taking a break. We're moving as quickly as possible. So we really appreciate your time. We really appreciate you all being here. And the last thing is this room will continue to get crowded. We want you all to get comfortable, so please stay in your seat as much as you can. Get comfortable. You're going to learn from a lot of the leaders that we're really excited to present to you today. So we'll get started here in 1 second. Again, please take your seats, and we look forward to talking with you briefly.
Thank you.
All right, that was your longest break of the day. I am incredibly honored to introduce not only my bosses, but the people who have invested the organization's resources, their commitment, and most importantly, the hard work to improve the anti-human trafficking crisis affecting not only our nation, but the entire world. I'm honored first to introduce Mercedes Schlapp. She has been the leader in our fight for anti-human trafficking, as well as CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp, our organization's leader, to give opening remarks. Please welcome Matt and Mercedes.
Good morning. Buenos dias a todos. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for coming to this incredibly important, I can't believe it, Rosie, third annual International Summit for Combating Human Trafficking. I want to bring, can we bring Rosie on stage too with us? Rosie, come on over. Rosie Orozco, president of Galedo, just amazing, an inspiration for all of us. But I'm so honored to be here with my husband, who has been truly just a visionary and really allowing me and Frank and the team to build out this center in an incredible way, the center, CPAC Center for Combating Human Trafficking, and actually seeing incredible results. We were at the White House yesterday with the administration officials. I got to tell you, President Trump, his big focus and his team is to save God's children. That is what President Trump is focused on. He is brought us all in, brought our coalition partners all in. They are serious about this issue. They took a lot of notes yesterday, and I promise you that we are going to follow up and get the support needed for the victims and make sure that these human traffickers who are terrorists are put in jail.
Mercy's being deceitful. She, as you all know, she's the one who's pushing for us to do more and more. And it's actually not me making the decision on the resources. I see Kimberly Bellissimo here, one of our executive committee board members, her husband Terry, and Nancy Ross. And we just have a wonderful CPAC community. And the one thing that when you run a conservative organization, if you look at what's happening around us in the country, minus this wonderful Donald Trump reemergence, there's a lot to be depressed about. And what I think our mission as far as CPAC is concerned is, although we convene a lot of people who talk, and we're going to talk today, and talking is important, the talking has to be about action. It must be about action. And you guys do all the hard work. And so we're here to listen to you. And so make sure your voices are heard, and make sure that everybody in the room is held accountable, that we're doing all we possibly can. Mercy said we met at the White House. Part of our job is to tell the people we love, you got to do more, and you got to reorient spending, and you got to take spending away from the priorities of the last 4 years and move them to the priorities that help children and help people. When I read When I read $2.5 billion to redo the Federal Reserve, which shouldn't even exist, imagine if we had those resources in this room and all of you wonderful people had that to save the lives of children and to put people in jail, right? So I believe that the people in the Trump administration want to do that too, so we're going to work together on that. Finally, as far as action is concerned and victories are concerned, small victories but important victories, Rosie came to CPAC and talked about the blank piece of paper, remember? Yelled up the blank piece of white paper, and we call it a clean slate. You called it a what?
Well, the blank page means how a victim can rewrite the stories.
Right.
And that's the most important thing for a victim.
So her whole point was, you know, a rebirth, a fresh start. And Frank Russo, who's already been up here and does great work with the center, and the rest of our partners and many of you in this room, in 5 states, we were able to pass this really important legislation where the victim of trafficking can start over. All of the crimes that they were forced into committing, they get to put that in the past. And really for all of us, we can't be haunted by the demons of the past. We have to look at the future. And so let's be future-oriented today. Let's think about what we're going to get done tomorrow. If you have a criticism for anything we're doing, we need to hear it. If you have a suggestion for how we improve, we need to hear it. And we just really honor all of you. And part of honoring all of you is also honoring our Creator. And we want to start today off in a prayer. So that's on me, right, sweetheart? Okay. I got to figure out how to do that by holding coffee. So I'm going to get rid of coffee. Amen. Dear Lord, be with all the wonderful people who are here today. I believe that we are humble and want to do your will, but oftentimes it's confusing to know exactly what that means and where that will guide us. Let us understand that every single second, every single minute of our life needs to be dedicated towards your purpose. And we need to start to realize, especially as some of us are combing white hair, that there's only so much time we have to make that difference. And it's our children who we pass on all these wonderful lessons, all of your truth. Let us honor this important mission by making sure as many kids as possible are saved from the evils of our time, and that the people in this room, in a spirit of community, will do all it takes to get the job done. And we pray in your Son's name. Amen.
Rosie.
What are you, on Twitter?
No. Dear defenders of justice and dignity, as we conclude this summit, I will invite each of us to go deeper, not just in action, but in intention. Let us take a moment to purify our motivations. This fight against human trafficking is not about titles or applause. It is about rescuing lives, restoring hope, and walking humble with purpose. We must not act to be seen, but to serve. Not to build our name, but to dismantle the system that profit from human pain. While traffickers are highly organized, we must be more than organized. We must be pure in heart and united in mission. I love that when they visit Mexico, the first thing they did was to go to the shelters, to go to Chalco with all these girls that are vulnerable. This is not for ambition, but for conviction. This is where our true power lies. Let us remember, justice is not a career, it's a calling. And in that calling, there is no space for pride and only humility, no room for rivalry, but unity. We have to be all more united than the crime. Today, I am encouraged to share that this movement is gaining momentum, not just in word, but in law. The Frederick Douglass Trafficking Victim Prevention and Protection Reauthorization Act, H.R. 1144, introduced by Congressman Chris Smith, has just passed the Foreign Affairs Committee unanimously. Yes, that's a big thing. And is expected to reach the House floor soon. This bill will strengthen protection for victims and equip nations to fight organized crime with renewed force. As we return to our courts, cities, and our communities, let us not just carry connections, let's carry conviction. Let us not just be professional, let's be lovers of justice, builders of hope, and healers of brokenness. Together, we are not just reacting to evil, we are advancing good. We are building a world where every child of God, every children will be safe, every survivor will be seen, and justice is not just an idea, but a lived reality. Thank you for walking this path with pure hearts and courageous vision. May justice be our compass, and may heaven strengthen every step of the way. God bless you all.
Wow.
I love you guys. And I love the board of Kaleido. Could you please stand up? Thank you, Sam. Sam is going to be our next president in January. She's now the global USA representative, and she's going to go to the world to speak against this evil. And Season, you are like an angel. You are really such a pure heart person, and we love you all. Thank you. Carola, I don't know if she arrived, but I know that she was having problems to arrive. God bless you all, and especially my handsome husband, that he's the hero of all. I love you, Alex.
All right, so Rosie got us started, but I also want you to recognize, if you please could, the people that do a lot of hard work behind the scenes.
Thank you.
Roger and Elise, will you stand up? Elise is one of our new board members. Kimberly and Terry, will you stand up? Kimberly, stand up. Nancy, stand up. Nancy. Oh, come on, keep standing up. Give them a round of applause and thank them for what they do. And Frank, let's get started.
And please, a big applause to Karen White. I don't know if she's here. Karen White, thank you for everything you have done for us. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you all again for joining us, for getting to hear from our leaders at CPAC. We're very excited. We have a slight change in agenda, and it's in the best way possible. Secretary Kristi Noem is going to be joining us here in just a minute. In the meantime, I wanted to run through our successes. You heard it from Mercy, but what we expect from our Center for Combating Human Trafficking. As they so kindly mentioned, I'm Frank Russo. I'm the director of CPAC Center for Combating Human Trafficking, and my job is to make sure that we have an impact across the globe. First, our team has worked, as Mercy mentioned, in over 10 states this year to pass legislation that significantly changes the course of victims and survivors of these horrific crimes. What does that mean? What does it mean that we support victims and survivors? As you'll hear from one of my good friends earlier or later today, the survivors who come out of these horrific crimes have at minimum 3 to 5 felonies, at maximum over 10. How are they supposed to get back to life? Meanwhile, we know that traffickers, unfortunately, in the last 4 years, were not being prosecuted. Victims were paying the price of their traffickers' crimes. And our goal at CPAC is to bring an end to that practice. So how do we do that? I'd love to tell you that it's simple. It's not. We have to go in every single state. And I see partners from across not only the United States, but the globe here, who have worked with us to reframe how we do policy around survivors and how we treat them. That also means we need to prosecute the traffickers. So who are you going to hear from today? You're going to hear from Secretary Kristi Noem, who has done the incredible job of solving one major problem. She has closed our southern border. You're also going to hear from Attorney General Bondi. General Bondi, Dag Blanche, Associate Attorney General Woodward have made their top priority not just to find these traffickers. Finding them is only half the battle, but to prosecute them. And you're going to hear today about how they've prosecuted just in the past week and brought charges against individuals who brought children to illegal farms in California to grow marijuana. That ends with this administration. And then the other thing you're going to learn, and this is coming from CPAC, by the way, that there is bipartisan work being done in this space. So you'll hear from Congressman Chris Smith and Senator Marsha Blackburn about their joint efforts with senators like Kristen Gillibrand of New York and like our partners on the House Judiciary Committee, including Congresswoman Lucy McBath, to focus on ending human trafficking. That means bills like the Trafficking Survivor Relief Act, you'll hear about later today. Bills like the international reauthorization of the trafficking grant programs that you'll hear later today. So our focus is not on partisanship, it's on solutions. And even though this is an international problem, we can provide an American solution. So it's our goal to work with each of you. If you take one thing away today, it's that we need your help. We are not, we've heard all the time about think tanks or conglomerates or all of these thought centers. That's not who we are. We're an action group. CPAC takes action. And we need your help, whether you're in the United States or elsewhere, to make that possible. If you're in this room, you're in this room because we invited you and we wanted you to be a part of that action. So please, take the time to get to know our staffer on the wall here that Matt and Mercy mentioned. Take time to get to know all of our speakers as best you can and get excited to learn from the best in the field and the leaders in the field and combating human trafficking. I'll be back in one moment to introduce Secretary Noem. Thank you all so much.
I just grab this? I don't. Okay, well, we're starting off with a bang because we're really honored to have with us today our great Secretary of Homeland Security, who was a wonderful member of Congress from South Dakota and a wonderful governor from South Dakota. And, you know, I guess we're not supposed to have favorite cabinet secretaries, but I have to say I'm incredibly impressed with the fact that I think she has the toughest job in government, and she is just, I think, pitch perfect in making sure that she's all around this country, comforting people who have been through these terrible disasters, making sure that we're being tough on everything in regards to the border, and just being a great ambassador for our values and for the Trump administration and for the president. She's always been a favorite of CPAC, and it's our great honor to have Secretary Kristi Noem with us here today. Come on out, Madam Secretary.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for getting up and coming and being a part of this and being a part of the team. It means the world to me. I think most of you know who I am, but first of all, I want to thank Matt and Mercedes for inviting me to be here to speak with all of you a little bit this morning. I just want you to know that my heart is to share a little bit of our thoughts and work that we've done over human trafficking and what Homeland Security is responsible for, but then also, if we get time, I know this is going to surprise everybody here, but if you have a couple questions for me, I will certainly take those, because I always think that's a little bit more engaging for all of you. There may be times where you see us doing something in the federal government or making decisions and you're wondering, why on earth are they doing that, or why is she saying that? And if I ever get the chance to ask her a question, I want to ask her this. So I'll do that at the end here, if you guys are more than willing to do that. Well, you know my name is Kristi Noem. I've had the privilege of serving as President Donald Trump's Homeland Security Secretary. People often ask me how I ended up with that position. President Trump had called me and asked me if I was interested in being a part of his cabinet after he won the election, and he said, I know people have mentioned you maybe for Interior or Ag, but Kristi, what would you like to do if you were given the opportunity to be a part of the team? And I said, sir, I would like to be considered to be the Homeland Security Secretary. And he said, why would you want to do that? And I said, sir, because it's your #1 priority. It's your #1 priority. We have to secure the border. We have to deport these illegal criminal aliens that are in our country. It's going to be a big job, and it's going to take months and months and months. And frankly, sir, I think you need someone who's tough enough to actually do it. I think you also need to have someone that is able to communicate with the American people why we're doing what we're doing and why it's important to the families that live here. And I said, and I'm a wife and a mom and a grandma. And I think it's extremely helpful to have that perspective out talking to the American people with a heart for families and talking about the impact on families who've been impacted by this invasion that we've seen, but also by the crimes that we've seen perpetuated against the American people. And he was absolutely wonderful and blessed me with the opportunity to serve in this position. And it has been probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my lifetime. If you know anything about me, I'm a farmer and a rancher. Ended up taking over our businesses when my dad was passed away in an accident at the age of 49. I ended up quitting college and taking them over, getting hit by the death tax. That's what got me into politics, was because it made me angry that we almost lost our family business because of tax policy. I served in Congress, and while I was in Congress, worked on human trafficking. Also then decided to run for governor of our state because governors are CEOs. Governors make decisions every day, and I wanted to live a life of significance, do something that mattered and make decisions that were better for my people. Since then, now President Trump has asked me to be a member of his cabinet, and I am extremely passionate about the fact that every single day when we get up, we need to do something that matters. We need to be engaged in things that change people's lives and give them the opportunities that we had growing up. I can't imagine what it would be like for my kids or for my grandkids if we didn't fight for the America that we had the privilege to live in when we were growing up. Now, Homeland Security is an interesting agency. It's got 23 different departments underneath it. So it has Customs and Border Protection, it has ICE, HSI, it has CISA, which is our cybersecurity agency of the nation. It is securing and helping small and medium businesses and also protecting critical infrastructure like our electrical grid from cyber attacks and those who would wish to harm us. We also have Secret Service. Under Homeland Security, we have FEMA, which is not only responsible for disasters, but it also is responsible for the continuation of government. If the worst of the worst thing happened to our country, FEMA is the agency that would step up and help us run the continuation of government. We also have many other agencies, INA intelligence agencies. I tell people as I go through the list, we are blessed to have the Coast Guard under the Department of Homeland Security as well. But I tell people what happens in the jurisdiction of Homeland Security is that anybody who lives in this country or comes into this country or leaves this country, we have jurisdiction over. Any product or good that is in this country, leaves this country or comes into this country, we have jurisdiction over. And anything that is on the internet that is sold, communicated, or transpires over the internet, we have jurisdiction over. Our mission is to secure the homeland and to do it with integrity and honesty in a way that is responsible to the American people. So it is a big job, but it's one that we take very seriously, and we're very grateful that President Trump is in the White House and that he takes it seriously. Because as you can tell, the last president didn't. Now, when I served in Congress here, I was extremely passionate about human trafficking. I was a young mom at the time. Often when I would come here every week, I had all my kids with me and they traveled back and forth. And I was aware of what was going on in the country and across the world and the evil, and involved with my church and the work that we were doing against trafficking and sex trafficking. But I ended up sponsoring some legislation that ended up being signed into law that dealt with human trafficking, allowing us to go after websites that would knowingly perpetuate sex trafficking and human trafficking, especially in regards to children. That bill was a bipartisan bill, and it took a lot of work at the time, working with members across the aisle, but I was very thankful to see it signed into law because previously, websites that facilitated the trafficking of human beings did not face any penalties or liabilities for having that platform and allowing that kind of action to transpire on their websites. And nobody could go after them or stop them from what they were doing by setting up a forum to where that slavery could be sold. Unfortunately, today, even years later, and we look at the history of the United States, we have more slavery going on in the world than we ever have before. So while we continue to do good work and pass bills, and I'm grateful for the work of our congressmen and senators who still bring legislation, we have a lot more work to do, and we'll continue to do that. When I was elected governor of South Dakota in 2018, I immediately put into my budget someone specifically that would be located within our Attorney General's office that would focus right on human trafficking, and that's all they would do every day, was to go after human traffickers that would be impacting our people in South Dakota, but across the country. In our state of South Dakota, we have 9 Native American tribes, and many of them dealt with a lot of trafficking of children, of women. Missing, murdered, and indigenous women were huge issues for us and for our people, and having someone who facilitated the work and the enforcement and the consequences and penalties for those who would be involved in that trade was incredibly important to me. We also passed a bill when I was governor to define what human trafficking was. Many times we were losing our court cases because it wasn't clearly defined in statute. So we did that. We defined what human trafficking was so that we would start winning these court cases against these perpetuators of violence. And then we also put in more resources for minors who would have been dragged into the industry, minors and individuals that, because of no family, no support at home, maybe drug addiction, bad influences, ended up with criminal records. We allowed them to be expunged and to be clean if they came out of that situation, and we also allowed them more resources for hospital care, medical care, and for mental health care. So, we bring all of that experience then, and I end up in this role at Homeland Security, and we have the responsibility for training the vast majority of the federal law enforcement officers in the country. We do that, and they go out to different agencies across the country. Many of our state and local law enforcement officers get trained under the umbrella of the Department of Homeland Security as well. And we have several agencies that have become specifically skilled and trained to fight human trafficking. And in fact, I've met with so many different groups that work in the space that you are and that you're passionate about and your advocacy matters for, that talk to me about what our HSI officers do every day. And maybe some of you are familiar with them, but our Homeland Security investigators are an agency that is a partnership with ICE that do the investigative work and specifically are the best in the world at going after traffickers. They go after them every day, and it doesn't matter what organization that I talk to, they say your HSI guys and gals are the best. They always are able to track down those who are trafficking individuals, find the ringleaders, and be able to rip that evil off by its head. And they are incredibly powerful asset to have. And so I'm so thankful I get the chance to lead individuals like that and agents who get up every day to help save our children and to save women and men from the kind of slavery that we've seen. But let's face it, for many years at the southern border, because it was open, we saw trafficking like we'd never seen it before. The invasion that came over the border perpetuated the Biden administration literally losing 300,000 children. These are children that they brought in over the border. In fact, many times Border Patrol agents would tell you they would see the same child cross with different groups of people in one day. Or in 1 week, they would see the same child be 3 or 4 times crossing the border with a different group of people. They were literally using these children to facilitate their invasion into our country, because then they would immediately be granted asylum and released into our country. The Biden administration quit doing DNA testing of anyone who came into our country to make sure they were a part of our family, their families, And so that was one of the things that we immediately reinstated under the Trump administration, that if a child comes to the border with a group of individuals, we are DNA testing them to ensure that they actually belong together, that they are family members when they claim that. When we're out doing enforcement operations as well, going after criminals on our streets that are murderers, rapists, traffickers, when we find children with them, we're immediately DNA testing them to see if they should be in that situation or with those individuals. We have been able to relocate and to find over 10,000 children already so far. 10,000 children. Good. But we've got a long ways to go, and that's why your help matters, and that's why what you do every day is so important to our department and the work that we do. I know a lot of you and most of you are extremely familiar with the Sound of Freedom movie that is horrific, absolutely horrific, but extremely powerful and changes people forever. I think everybody who's seen it, it's changed their lives. But I don't know if you know that that whole movie started with an HSI agent who did his work, found 2 children, and then started to go after the ring and found this international web of evil that uncovered that entire trafficking organization there. And that started with one agent that was under the umbrella of the Department of Homeland Security. That's the kind of work that we do every single day that I'm just so proud of. I just spent this last weekend in Nashville and spent an afternoon with some of those investigators, hearing about their work and seeing what tools they need to go after these criminals and make sure that we're able to bring these children back into safety and these women back into safety as soon as possible. Now, because of President Trump's policies, we've been able to see a secure border. We've been able to see the flow of migrants and criminals and people in this country slow down. To the last 2 months, the amount of people that have entered this country has been 0, which has never happened before in the history of this country. I've gone to 10 different countries and visited with their presidents in Central America, in Latin America, and visited with them and talked to them about the fact that when they have their citizens that are coming to our country, that they should turn them around themselves before they get to America. I have negotiated security agreements with them to share information on criminals and their backgrounds so that when they know who in their country perpetuated trafficking, that they flag them for us so we can find them if they happen to now be here, and we can bring them and force them into consequences and return them back to their home countries. These countries, because of those conversations, have worked and signed biometric data sharing agreements with us, security agreements. They're even telling us that they are now, because of President Trump's strong leadership, they have set up housing programs for their citizens to come back home. If they need a loan to get a house when they come back, they will help them if they're people that aren't dangerous. They will help give their children scholarships. They'll give them food aid for a period of time, train them for a job. And we believe, after visiting in those 10 different countries with the leaders, that we have over 1.5 million people that have already gone home on their own and self-deported just because they recognize they shouldn't have been in the United States illegally. And if they want to come back someday, they need to do it the right way. And they needed to do it, come back on their own. So now, one of the things that President Trump's bill just passed, the big, beautiful bill that he talks about quite often, that is quite powerful, did have some policy changes in it. Obviously, it had a lot more resources for our border, for the border wall construction, but also enforcement with more ICE agents, more Border Patrol agents, more investigators will also be hired. There also will be the ability to return people back to their countries and dollars with that. But it also had some policy changes in it that I want you to know. It's going to make it absolutely mandatory, with the language that was included in the bill, to conduct criminal background checks on sponsors that would be with unaccompanied minors. We have, because of our work, arrested over 400 sponsors that were sponsors of children brought into this country that the Biden administration was paying to take care of and to traffic our children. We have stopped that, and we're so thankful that we now have language that makes it absolutely mandatory to run a criminal background check on someone before they can become a sponsor. in our programs. We are tasked to be the chair of the Forced Labor Enforcement Task Force here for the federal government as well. And so we have individuals within Homeland Security that work every day on forced labor